Hello, good evening and welcome to Turtle Talk, presented by myself, Dreadwind, from the Back to the 80s podcast. Thanks for dropping by, San Diego, etc. and, the world. This is the second one of these that I'm trying. The first one seems to have been sort of moderately well received. We'll do the whole 4, I think, all in one go. Why the hell not? Today's offering, if you've obviously watched the intro there, you will know, is Michaelangelo, the life, soul and party of the Turtles, as Chuck Lorre said in the opening titles, he's a party dude. Yeah. So obviously this is the second release, or the second guy who I bought, aside from Donatello. Like Michaelangelo, of course I like Michaelangelo. Michaelangelo is the kid appeal character in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon of 1987 to 88 and beyond. He's the guy that all the little kids are meant to say, whoa, he's cool, I want to be like him. Whereas I think Donatello is more your nerdy kid, Raphael's your big brother, and Leonardo's the leader. So kids who want to be the leader will always want to be Leonardo, as they always wanted to be sort of Luke Skywalker or Matt Tracker or Optimus Prime et al. I think the cool kids wanted to be Raphael. The nerdy kids, as I said last week, probably want to be Donatello. And I think that the younger guys, the younger brother type, would always want to be Michaelangelo, because let's face it, that's the role that he fulfills in the show. Especially in the new show. He's very much the little brother. But I think in the original cartoon, he sort of is the little brother without being the little brother explicitly. So sort of the Bumblebee type character. I mean, in the comics, he was hardly in it at all. Again, he was the little brother character, but he didn't really make anything of him. He was a bit of a non-character, really. But all that changed come 1987, when obviously Playmates wanted a character that the kids could identify with, and David Wise very wisely wrote in that Michaelangelo would be that guy. Voiced by Townsend Coleman. The incomparable Townsend Coleman, who of course did The Tick as well, and for Transformers fans he did a couple of guys in G1, but most prominently he did Sentinel Prime in animated. But the role he's most known for, I would say, is probably Michaelangelo. He's the guy who everybody really knows him doing. I interviewed the guy. I've met the guy personally, and I've actually interviewed the guy for the Back to the 80s podcast, where he talked as Michaelangelo to myself and Jeremy. We were both sort of instant messaging each other, squee. This is Michaelangelo talking to us. This is really cool. Because, of course, as a kid, every kid loved Michaelangelo. They might have had another favourite, but they would always love Michaelangelo as well. Certainly my co-host Phil loves Michaelangelo. He's his favourite turtle of all time. And it's fair to say that his character never really changed in sort of 10 seasons of the show. But none of them did, to be absolutely honest. Characterisation wasn't the show's strong point. It was definitely action-adventure. These are the turtles, and this is what they do, and this is how they are. And nothing much changed with their status quo. But that's absolutely fine. That's what we wanted from the show, isn't it? I don't know. Sometimes characterisation isn't needed in a cartoon. And I think the Turtles was one of them. They sort of appear in a status quo that never ever changed. But Michelangelo is certainly one of my favourites. I absolutely love the guy. I like that he is the comic relief. Competent fighter, especially in the films. We never saw this until the sort of video and DVD releases. But Michelangelo and his nunchucks, he's more than competent. He's a master of the nunchuck. But it's something you never really saw in the cartoon, because we had it cut out over here. Because obviously we had the hero turtles. And in the films, again, even though they were Ninja Turtles, they cut all that stuff out in the UK. It's on the DVD releases, though, because apparently now we're a bit better about that kind of thing. But, Michelangelo, definitely a favourite of mine. Definitely a favourite of most people, I think. I really like the guy. I love Townsend Coleman. He's absolutely marvellous. And come on, orange and green goes really rather well together, as evidenced on the figure. How's about that for a segue? As I was saying last week, skin tone on these guys is different with each turtle. And it's no more prevalent than with Michelangelo, who is a much darker, sort of richer green than Donatello is. Donatello is sort of a mid-range lighter green. But, you know, I mean, I like the fact that these guys are all different skin tones, because everybody in the world has a different skin tone to everybody else. So having the one uniform skin tone doesn't make a difference, or make sense even. But Michelangelo, much deeper green. Let's take him off his little stand there. The little stand, obviously, same as last week, except the fact that it's got Michelangelo written down the bottom there. I love these sewer cover plinth stands. I think they're really cool. I think they're well worth the £15 you pay for the figure. So to get a little plinth with that as well is very, very cool. Now then, onto the figure himself. Of course, he has the 34 points of articulation that Donatello had last week. He's got bicep swivels, he's got shoulder swivels, he's got double jointed elbows, this time with an orange elbow pad, obviously, because he's Michelangelo. He has got full range of motion in the head, because it's on a ball joint, and it also goes up and down to the side, whatever you want, and of course, orange bandana. Another thing I didn't note last week, the bandana backs, obviously with the original toys for the turtle, you know, tiny little knots at the back. These ones are full flowing bandana ends. It doesn't make much of a difference, but it's nice to see, and each one is different for each turtle, because each turtle has a different grimace. Michelangelo doesn't have a grimace at all, he just looks pretty stern. That's one of the things I'm a bit about. I could have done with these guys maybe not looking like they do on facially. I know they're supposed to ape the original toys, which is cool and all, but it would have been nice if sort of Michelangelo at least had a smile, because he would have had a smile in the show. But, you know, it's a minor, niggly little thing. Another thing I didn't address is the eyes. Now then, obviously these guys are aping not only the original Playmates toys, but the cartoon series, and so therefore they have eyeballs. Whereas the original Playmates toys just had blank eyes in a sort of Batman the Animated Series fashion. Now, a lot of people have complained, and rightly so, about some of these guys having what they call derpy eyes, i.e. one eyeball going that way, one eyeball going that way, and, you know, mix and match thereof. Mine aren't too bad. Michelangelo suffers from it a little bit. What people have been doing is basically just whiting the eyes out and making them look a bit cooler, I think. But on the other hand, I kind of like them with eyeballs, because they are supposed to be the cartoon show guys. So obviously I would prefer to have eyeballs on them. It would have been nice if they'd not been derpy, but it's not the major thing in the world, you know. It's not the be all and end all. I can live with it, I think is what I'm saying. I also didn't really mention the belts. The belts obviously have their initials on like they would in the show. Donatello and Leonardo obviously have a strap going there because they've got sword and bow respectively, but Michelangelo doesn't. He has just the belt going across and little holders for his nunchuck, which I think is really cool. Exactly like the original toy. And like I say, full range of motion on the back. Let's show that again. You know, he can move around, he can do chest crunches, he can hunch over like that, he can go back. Really, really nice. And obviously the legs, they've got exactly the same limitations as I said last time. But yeah, it can't be helped, and it doesn't really make much of a difference to the figure. I still think this is a really nice Michelangelo figure. He looks great. He looks really cool. I'll come back to him in a second too. I just want to talk about the nunchucks. Now, of course, the original 1987-88 Playmates toys were just literally one piece of brown plastic with a couple of things, holders on the end, and in the middle just a plastic strip that could and did and would break. This is a bit more sturdy. Again, the actual nunchuck ends are covered with orange bandages to denote that obviously Michelangelo uses these guys. And then in the middle, it's actually a chain. I mean, it rendered me speechless. And it does actually go around like a proper nunchuck. You can do all kinds of weird and wonderful things. It's great, obviously. I can't, because I'm not trained in their use. But they do actually go around, which is really, really cool. And it also means that Michelangelo can hold them in a number of ways. Animated Jazz, Transformers Animated Jazz had a similar thing. I think he had string in between his. But it does mean that you can hold them in a variety of ways. You can have them slung over his arm like that. I'm just down like that. You can hold them like so. You know, you can hold them over his back, ready to swing like that. Or even he can hold sort of dual-handed poses. The only thing wrong with these toys is that maybe the fingers don't grip them as well as they should. Because they're so articulated, sometimes they don't really hold them maybe as well as they could. If you can find a pose that it fits in, then that's great. Like this, you know, you couldn't really do that with the other toy. You couldn't hold them sort of with two hands. You could, but you'd be frightened of stress fracturing and breaking the things. So this guy can hold he can hold the two nunchucks together. He can hold one like that in a number of poses. So he can hold it like that. And then obviously, you know, mileage varies. I can hold them like that, you know, which is another different one. There's so many poses you can do, and you can spend hours just making little poses of these guys. And that's one of the things I really like about them. A good action figure, you should be able to think, yeah, how am I going to make him look today? How is he going to look this week? Or just have a play with him while you're watching a video on YouTube or whatever, you know. You can do with these things what you want. There is no set pose for these characters and these action figures, and that is part of the reason I love them so much. I just think these are great, especially for the price. I paid 15 quid for this guy. 15 quid. I mean, if you wanted this range of articulation on a Kamen Rider figure, like I say, you would be paying about 60-70 quid for one of these. You know, and a lot of the high-end action figures, these, as far as I'm concerned, are high-end action figures. Certainly more high-end than we've ever had before. You know, the original Turtles were, what, 5 points of articulation? And these are 34, and you're still paying about 15 quid for that. Words can't express how impressed I am with these guys, and I'm so glad that they're bringing out all the other characters as well. I'm hoping it's a range that runs and runs and runs. And certainly with the sales of the Turtle toys so far, they are the biggest selling toy so far of 2013 and the back end of 2012. So much show scope for these guys to sort of run and run and run. But that's the end of Michaelangelo for this week. We shall be back next week with, I'm guessing it'll be Leonardo. I'll get Leo in there somewhere, and then we'll do Raphael right at the end, because he's not my least favourite turtle. I don't think I have a least favourite. I like them all kind of equally, but Donatello just sort of edges everybody out. But I just think Raph deserves to go last, because he's last but definitely not least. And I don't really want Leonardo to feel sort of left out, because everyone sort of forgets about Leonardo, because he's the leader character, doesn't really have irony, and he's a bit of a straight arrow. But we shall talk more about that next week. In the meantime, this is me, Dreadwind, bidding you a fine farewell and a good week. Take care of yourselves and each other. I'll see you in 7. Bye-bye for now.